We start with one of the most prolific serial killers in the United States. His name, Samuel Little. Samuel Little, unfortunately, is not part of the Little household that we all come to love from Stuart Little's movies. Unfortunately, this man has long since lost his way to the Little house and is spending life behind bars, in the Big House, also known as the Stroke and Choke Killer. He confessed to killing 93 people, most of them are women. His reign of stalking victims started in 1970 and didn't end until 2005. That is a span of 35 years of living a life in the shadows, seemingly undetected. So far, he has been linked to 60 out of the 93 murders. What could cause such a man to become such a prolific serial killer? What could cause him to just be a straight murderer and seem to be completely unbothered by it? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is his story. Samuel Little, unfortunately, is not part of the Little household that we all come to love from Stuart Little's movies. Unfortunately, this man has long since lost his way to the Little house and is spending life behind bars, in the Big House. Samuel Little was born as Samuel McDonald on June 7th, 1940, to his 16-year-old mother named Bessie Mae Little. He told investigators his mother was a sex worker, but a 1940 census listed her occupation as a maid, according to the monthly periodical Cleveland Magazine. His father was a 19-year-old named Paul McDowell, and Little used this alias Samuel McDowell throughout his life. Little later moved to Lorain, Ohio, where he was raised by his paternal grandmother. February of 1954, Little committed to the Boys Industrial School, a reformatory for teenagers near Columbus, Ohio. According to Cleveland Magazine, he would later say he was sent there for stealing a bicycle. By the time he left, a year and a half later, he had been reported 47 times for disciplinary infractions. At age 16, Samuel dropped out of high school. This was after he was convicted of breaking and entering. When he finished serving time, he moved to Florida with his mother. Soon after moving, his crime spree started to rocket straight onto headlines of newspapers. At first, it was petty crimes such as theft. That is until the 1950s, he moved around from state to state and got arrested for fraud, driving under the influence, assault, armed robbery, and rape, amongst other crimes. In my research, articles corroborated that not much else is known about his younger life other than the fact that he was in and out of prison and that he boxed. According to practicalpie.com, by the time he was 35, he was arrested 26 times. He spent at least 3 years in prison for one sentence after breaking into a furniture store. Reports say that Little had a habit of robbing people for drug and alcohol money, blowing it, and then moving on to the next place. Little decided he wanted to appetite his palate to a larger, broader spectrum, so he decided to focus on marginalized women, prostitutes, drug addicts, alcoholics, anything, people who wouldn't be missed. This is where his first victim comes in. Miss Mary Jo Brosley. Brosley was an alcoholic who was estranged from her family. She met Little at a bar in Miami on New Year's Eve in 1970. 6 months before she met him, she had been reported missing by her family in Massachusetts. It would be 47 years before they heard anything about her again. Brosley left her 7-year-old son, Daryl Brosley, in Massachusetts in June of 1970, without telling anyone she was leaving. She was reported missing by her family not long after, who last saw her on June 12th. According to the investigation report, Mary's sister, Claire Coppolino, told detectives that her sister was a severe alcoholic when they contacted her almost 50 years after she went missing. Coppolino said on the night before her sister disappeared, police found her walking along the highway at night. Brosley told them 2 men had pushed her out of the moving vehicle in Palmer, Massachusetts, and her shoulder was hurt. The next day, she was supposed to take a bus back to Boston where she lived with her parents, but Brosley never came home. Coppolino suspected she hitched a ride with someone somewhere, which was common for her to do. According to Coppolino, Brosley, quote, would take rides from anyone who would provide her with alcohol, and she'd been in and out of the hospital with cirrhosis on her liver. Brosley was also an anorexic and only weighed 80 pounds at 5'4", and her sister told investigators. Brosley had a rough life, by Coppolino's telling. Physically, she was sick, but also endured a hip surgery that left her limp and a metal plate and screws in her body that were to become part of the confirming her identity decades later. She had a V-shaped scar on her cheek and had a deformed pinky from the time she cut it badly while slicing vegetables, but refused medical care, allowing the severed portion of the digit to dangle until it fell off, according to Coppolino. Bronson's ex-husband beat her regularly during their marriage, Coppolino said. Things were not going so well for Brosley when she made her way to Miami, Florida, to start a new life. 6 months later, she met a man who would murder her. That's right, Samuel Little. Samuel was able to convince Mary to leave the bar, and after leaving the bar, he drove her to what appeared to be an abandoned factory. He strangled her to death. That was his manner of killing, as it was something that was almost always seemed undetected, and because of the victims he chose, everyone assumed that they died of drug overdoses. Decades later, Little would tell investigators that Brosley said she left her family because she had issues with alcoholism. According to CBS Miami, he would also tell that she remembered that she was wearing a flower sundress and a chain necklace, which he played with before strangling her to death, the Tallahassee Democrat reported. He remembered she had a limp. Little always strangled his victims. A former boxer, he told investigators he would punch women to stun them or knock them out. Then he would use his bare hands to strangle them. However, in Brosley's case, medical examiners were never able to confirm what exactly killed her. By the time a father and his 15-year-old son found Brosley's body in a shallow grave in the wooded area of Miami on January 24th, 1971, during a hunting trip, it had decomposed enough to be unrecognizable, according to Miami-Dade medical examiner's investigation report. Brosley's brain still showed alcohol reading of 0.29 to 0.37 milliliters, which the medical examiner reported if it was a latter, it could have been enough to kill her. But the fact that Brosley was found in a 6-inch deep grave with proportions of one of her legs sticking out made it obvious that someone else was involved. What's more, according to the investigators, Brosley's mesh panties were put on with both legs through one leg hole. Miami-Dade Police Homicide Detective David Denmark interviewed the Little about Brosley in 2019. Little told Denmark that Brosley was the first woman he killed. He described her wearing a colorful sundress, remarked that she wore a necklace he played with while it was hanging around her neck. The coroner's report confirms Brosley was wearing a long-sleeved V-neck mini dress with a red, yellow, blue, and brown pattern and a white background. The necklace was described in the coroner's report as a large, linked white or yellow necklace with no clasp. When Little spent days confessing his rapes and murders to the investigation, he showed him the necklace Brosley was wearing the night he killed her. Little said he remembered it. "We believe he choked her to death," Denmark said. He said he only partially buried her because the ground was too hard and he would never bury someone in Florida again because, again, the ground was too hard. Brosley's son grew up always hoping he'd see his mom again, he told the Sun Centennial. He was raised by his great aunt and didn't find out his mother had died until 2017 after her remains were identified. Then he had to find out that she was murdered by a serial killer. He told the Sun Centennial that the news gave him some closure. At least he knew what happened to her, but it also left him angry. What I find most disturbing is the fact that Little continues to go ahead while he was in prison during this time to draw his victims, every single one he can recollect, and then he talks about each one. Just listen to this chilling statement he said about a transgender woman in Miami.
Tell me about Mary Ann.
She's what you nowadays they call a transgender.
She's a black male dressed up as a female. Okay. How tall is she?
Marianne's about 5'7", 5'6". She weighed about 135.
Okay.
Maybe 140.
And how old do you think she was?
But she was 19.
Okay. And where was she from?
No, Miami, down in Liberty City.
Okay. And did she, you mentioned before she had a boyfriend, or she talked about a boyfriend?
Named Wes.
Wes?
Yeah.
And tell me about where you met her at.
I've seen her down at the Guar on 17th Avenue, and she had on a short cream miniskirt. Cream and red. So then this opportunity popped up. Take her to the store.
Right.
Instead of me bringing her back to the apartment, I went down 27th Street. That's going down to Fort Lauderdale, called the Alligator Alley. It runs into the Alligator Alley.
Right.
But the further out you get, the further you get out of Miami.
Right.
And you got vegetation.
Now, how far outside of Miami do you think you were?
It wasn't too far to Miami, right there. I was in my stepdaddy's car, Pontiac Le Mans.
Now, where did you take her to?
Continue down 27. Got back on 27.
Going outside of Miami. Okay.
Miami.
Going away from Miami.
Going away from Miami. We got down past the let's say limits. So I continued on toward Fort Lauderdale, and I seen a road going off the main road back into vegetation on the left side. So I got her out of the car, pulled her out, and drug her into the growth back there, and pulled her deeper into there's a path. A little path was running somewhere. I don't know where it led it to, but it was running deeper into the undergrowth. It's like Everglades like that. And we ran into some water running. But before we got to the water, the earth was mushy. I turned her loose, and she fell into it face down.
And how far outside of Miami do you think you were?
About a mile, 2 miles.
What year did Marianne occur?
72.
Okay, 1972.
In this video, you can clearly see that this man has no remorse, no care in the world for what he's actually done. Not only that, you can see the smile on his face. You can see, like, as if he's just describing how to, like, plant a tree or, like, fix a piece of machinery. It's as easy as breathing to him, and to me, that is absolutely insane. Although I ran off on a little bit of a tangent, I'm going to reel it back and continue on with the dates and times of Samuel's murder spree and his crimes until the day he gets arrested. Now we're in May 1971. He is charged with armed robbery in Cleveland and awaiting trial. He's charged with sodomy. He was later found not guilty on robbery charges and never tried on the latter count. In 1972, after his acquittal, Little takes up with a woman named Aurelia Jean Dorsey, who was 30 years his senior. She would remain his girlfriend, traveling companion, and partner in crime until her death from a brain hemorrhage in 1988, according to Cleveland magazine. Throughout the 1970s, Little and Dorsey moved around the Midwest and South, supporting themselves by shoplifting, burglary, and fencing stolen goods. Little would confess to committing multiple murders across the regions during the decade, according to the FBI. Most of the victims, however, remain unknown. Though he was often arrested for an assortment of petty crimes, he spent little time in jail, according to the Plain Dealer. This is one of the things that I find the most infuriating, right? If you know he's a repeat offender and apparently had a girlfriend who was chill with him doing everything, including murder, I'm assuming that part because it doesn't specifically say, why would you not keep him behind bars? Like, I feel like this is something that is still a problem in our justice system today. Why would you not keep a convicted criminal who keeps repeating behind bars? Like, I don't know about you guys, but even a 3-strike system I feel like is too lenient. You know what I mean? He has proven time and time again, I'm going to keep doing this. Hey, I like getting in trouble. I don't care. You see what I mean? I don't know. It's just irritating. Anyway, moving on. In September of 1976, Little is arrested for intent to ravish rape outside of St. Louis, Missouri. His victims tells police Little choked her from behind with an electrical cord, forced her into his car, and beat her unconscious, then drove to a remote location and raped her, according to the Associated Press. He is sentenced to 3 months in county jail. How is that worth 3 months? I don't understand. I don't get it. I really don't. Okay, continuing. November of 1982, Little is arrested for shoplifting in Pascagoula, Mississippi, after authorities discover he matches the description of a suspect in the death of Melinda Rose Laprie. He is charged with her murder, reported the Associated Press. A grand juror, however, declines to indict him. He is subsequently extradited to face charges for the rape and murder of Patricia Ann Mount in Gainesville, Florida. 1984. Little was tried for a murder of Patricia Ann Mount, with whom he was seen leaving the bar in 1982. Her bruised, naked body was found later in a field. After deliberating for less than half an hour, jurors acquitted him on all charges, according to the local newspaper. Wow. That's crazy. It's almost as if, like, y'all had him and then double get... all I gotta say is that if he was able to talk his way out, man is a good talker, is all I can say about that. Little told investigators he had killed at least 10 women in the South and Midwest in the early 1980s before relocating to California. Some of the murders have been linked to existing Jane Does and missing person cases, while other victims have been identified as a result of Little's confessions, such as Mary Jo Payton, according to the Cleveland ABC affiliate West TV, and Frances Campbell, according to Savannah Morning News, both whom were killed in 1984. October of 1984, Little's arrested for 2 assaults in San Diego and later tried to attempt a murder. After the jury deadlocks, he pleads guilty to assault and false imprisonment and serves 2.5 years in prison, reported the Associated Press. That's it. That's what boggles me. He told reporters, I killed 10 people. And they're like, okay. And then he's arrested for 2 assaults and he only gets 2.5 years. Huh? Idiots, y'all. Idiots. Now we're in 1987. Following his release from prison, Little moves to Los Angeles. In July of that year, he murders Carol Alford. Afterwards, he dumping her body in the South Central alleyway, according to the Associated Press. Alford was one of the 7 women Little claims he murdered in the city that year, though their identities remain unknown. Of course they are. 1989, Little murders Audrey Nelson that August in Guadalupe, Apodaca a month later, according to Associated Press. In the 1990s, Little told the FBI he murdered numerous women throughout the decade in Los Angeles, South, and Ohio, and he is still not arrested. I am sorry, the FBI is slacking so hard. I don't understand. If someone goes to you and confesses, would you not check it out? I don't want to hear that it's because they don't have money. Tenía dinero, okay? They had money. They simply were lazy. They didn't want to do it. I don't care. They took the massive L on that, and they could have stopped him sooner. Continuing. In 1991, Little steals a carton of cigarette it says cigarette pack. I'm sure they meant cigarette pack. Little steals a carton of cigarette pack in Lorraine and hits someone while trying to flee the scene of a crime. He's arrested and charged with aggravated robbery, according to the Plain Dealer. 1988, Little pleads guilty to attempted robbery for his arrest in 91 and is sentenced to 2 years in prison, reported the Plain Dealer. So that's like 4 years so far. Oh my gosh. 2005, Little claims his final victim was a woman named Nancy, whom he strangled in Tupelo, Mississippi, according to Los Angeles Times. Investigators believe her identity could be Nancy Carol Stevens, whose body was found off a road that August. 2007, Little is arrested in Los Angeles for a possession of cocaine, pleads guilty, reported the Associated Press. After failing to attend court and ordered drug rehabilitation program, a bench warrant was issued for his arrest. So it took him to be on drugs, to miss his court date, for y'all to be like, we should probably go get him. I'm sorry, you guys. Just the anger is like, wow. You know what I mean? Like, the stupidity is it's astronomically high. September 5th, 2012. Little is arrested at a homeless shelter in Louisville, Kentucky, and extradited to California to face neurotics charge, according to the FBI. That's it. Not that he killed anyone or anything. Totally innocent. I'm gonna fight everyone. I'm sorry. January 2013. Los Angeles Police Department detectives find a DNA match between Little and Alfred Nelson and Apodaca murders. The Los Angeles County District Attorney Office charges Samuel Little with 3 counts of murder and a special circumstance for multiple murder, reported Los Angeles Times. Yeah, because it's not like he told you or anything. September of 2014. Following a brief trial, a jury finds Little guilty. Following a brief trial, a jury finds Little guilty on 3 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of Alfred Nelson and Apodaca. He is later sentenced to 3 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole, reported Los Angeles Times. At sentencing, Little screamed, "I didn't do it!" Yeah, you did. Idiot. 2018. After gaining Little's trust, Texas Ranger James Holland began interviewing him in 2018 with the help of FBI analyst Christy Palazzolo and Angela Williamson. Up until that point, 78-year-old had maintained his innocence, but soon began detailing his crimes. As I stated in the video earlier that you guys got a taste of, yeah, that's this Bobo over here talking about, I'm innocent, confessing his crimes. Little shared the names of what he could remember and even sketched what his victims looked like. Over the next year and a half, Little gave investigators 650 hours worth of interviews, eventually putting the number of his victims at 93, though he said he stopped counting at 84. Yeah, because it's not like it's a record for him or a hit list, according to the Los Angeles Times. That December, Little pled guilty to the 1994 murder of Denise Christie brothers in Odessa, Texas, as part of his plea deal. He avoided the death penalty and received another life sentence, according to the NBC News. So here's the thing. This is my personal opinion. You guys tell me if you agree with this. If a man commits murder and he's able to get out of the death penalty, I'm like, okay, because I feel like death is too good for him. But don't you think he should have the maximum punishment, like make his life excruciating hard to live through? I don't understand. You know what I mean? Like, he is not guilty. he doesn't feel guilty is what I meant. You know what I mean? Wow. August 2019. Little pleads guilty to the murders of 4 women in Ohio, Anna Stewart, whose body was found in 1991 in the suburbs of Columbus, and the 1984 murder of Mary Jo Payton, and the 1991 murder of Rose Evans in Cleveland. And an unknown woman says he murdered more than 30 years ago, whose body has yet to be discovered. He's sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms, according to the Plain Dealer. October of 2019, the FBI confirms Samuel Little is the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history. It says he has matched 50 cases of the 93 murders he claimed he's committed, and FBI also releases a timeline of Little's lives and crimes in hopes of identifying more of his victims. As Little confessions are matched to existing cases, and as new victims are identified, more murder indictments are being filed across the country. Now failing health, Little continues to work with Texas Ranger James Holland to help identify his victims and detail his crimes. But you know what really sucks about all of this? What really does? He dies, okay? Spoiler alert, Samuel Little dies at the age of 80 on December 30th, 2020. And wow. In my head, I'm severely amazed because this man was claiming, I'm innocent, I didn't do it, when we all know for sure that he did do it, and don't play stupid. You know what I mean? Wow. It makes me sad on how bad our system is, because it's we can fix it, and I know it's going to take a lot of work to do it. It doesn't happen magically overnight. But the faster we start ripping off the band-aids of this broken system and literally forcing ourselves to clean out the wound, so to speak, the infection, the rot, whatever you want to call it, the better we will be as a whole. These people need to be stopped, and what really disgusts me is the fact that this man was out here bragging, living the dream, and nobody took him seriously. And if they did, it sure as heck didn't state it in any of the articles. That is what is most insane to me. Absolutely bonkers. That being said, I hope you guys enjoyed my first Serial Killer Files episode, essentially. I don't know if I'll do more of these. It depends on the reception, but I'm really proud of it, as I worked, really hard, and I really appreciate everyone who was here and watching and was interesting. Listen, if you have any pointers, let me know, okay? I did a lot of new things in this video and figured some stuff out with my software that I use, and don't worry about it. Just, it's okay to criticize me, because that's the only way I will genuinely learn. But don't be hateful, you know what I mean? Like point out what literally can help me. But other than that, I thank you guys. I love you. And as always, stay sunny.